On this week's episode of Yes, I Am Sitting on the Floor, I'm going to be talking about the books that I've recently bought and why I need to stop spending my money. So I'm going to kind of split these up into categories. I'm going to have the category of where I bought them, and then inside of that, if it's applicable, I'm going to also talk about the books that I've read first, and then talk about the books that I haven't read, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to start by talking about my Amazon books that I got, which Amazon obviously sells used books, which is great, but I usually go to Amazon if there's books that I can't find elsewhere, and it's usually for series as well, because I know other like used books websites, they'll just have like single books, or they'll have like the beginning of a series but not the end of it. So Amazon, I usually go for my series books or books that are harder to find. So the first part of this is The Hunger Games. I have all of the books here used from Amazon, and I have never read this. I remember in middle school everyone talking about this, genuinely had no idea what it was about, and obviously I've seen the movie, so now I know. But I really actually want to read the books because I heard the books are just so much better than the movies, and I don't want to be the person that is like, oh, the books are always better, because I don't believe that's true. I believe that it's up for interpretation and it's up for every individual, but I just think that I'm going to enjoy the books more than the movies because I also feel like there's more representation in the book. So I got those. But I also got the Lightning Thief series. Again, never read it. I've seen the movies, and I know that these are going to be better than the movies just from what everyone was saying, how bad the movies were. The thing with this series, though, is when I bought it, it was like all 5 paperback books. So I got 3 paperback books, and then I got 2 hardcover books, which it's fine. I'm not, it's not a big deal or anything, but I really like paperback books, and I like when my series match. So it's just going to be eating away slowly at my brain until I disintegrate into nothing. So that's fine. The last book that I got from Amazon is actually nonfiction. It's called Summertime in Murdertown. This is written and about David Gunn. He, as a career, is a singer in one of my favorite bands, King 810. It is a hardcore metal band, so don't go listen to it if that's not something you're into. But he was born and raised in Flint, Michigan, and through the songs that he's written and given to us, you can already tell without reading this just how tough and hard living in Flint, Michigan is, and just how much murder and tragic and just these conditions that they're forced to live in. And it's really heartbreaking to just listen to the songs, but I really wanted to support David and to get his book and to read about his actual life and the hardships he went through. Just from his songs themselves, I know that he lived in a house as a child with like 8 other people. They had like twin mattresses on the floor in the kitchen. They bathed from a pot that they heated up on the pan, and they would use that. There were just guns everywhere because they were so scared they didn't know what was going to happen or who was going to come through the door. And it's just heartbreaking to know that children aged like 6 to 9-ish were picking up guns and shooting people. Still in 2020, it's still happening. It's not been fixed. So I really want to educate myself and to support David, in not only music, but in his life and the reality of his and so many other people's situation. So even though I haven't read this yet, I highly, highly suggest to pick this up or to pick other nonfiction books up that are own voices about the things that are happening currently. So the last book that oh my gosh, my plant, can you calm down? The last book that I got from Amazon used is this edition of Little Women. I am so excited just about this beautiful cover. Like, I saw it when Kayla from Books and Lala picked it up, and I was obsessed. And it's used, and I really, really want to see the movie. And I know that because of the movie came out, so many people started reading this and were like, oh, this book is amazing, read it. So before I see the movie, I really want to read this, and I know I'm going to get through it soon because the movie just looks amazing, and I know that this book is hard-hitting and it makes you feel things. So I'm very excited for that. This is the last book that I purchased from Amazon, though, and she's a little bit of a thickie. So we don't discriminate here. I will be getting to her very shortly, but I am super excited to be reading this book. Okay, so I have two more little stacks of books that I got other places before I get to like my big stack. And so my library was actually having a book sale, and it ended up being you could buy 3 books for $1. So I got 3 books. I got The Lovely Bones, which I've never read. I've seen the movie once a long time ago, and I know the basic premise, but I heard that the book itself was just really, really amazing, so I'm excited to read this. I got Things Fall Apart, which I was forced to read as a 14-year-old for high school. I was also forced to read, like, Great Expectations by Charles Dickens as a 14-year-old and write, like, an annotated research paper on it, and I wanted to choke myself to death. So that's fine, but this I actually remember really liking, and it's not that big either, so it's not too daunting. And the last book that I picked up at this library sale is Fangirl. You can barely see it, by Rainbow Rowell, and it doesn't have the cover, obviously, but I don't have any other Rainbow books, and I really want to get into her. I want to read The Wayward Son, and I figured this is by her. It's like 3 books for $1. Why don't I just pick it up? So I'm actually excited to get to this because I've seen a lot of people read it on BookTube, and there's been some 3 stars and there's been some 5 stars, and I don't know where I'm gonna fall. Okay, in this last little stack, I am actually lucky enough to have a exclusively used bookstore about 15 minutes from my house. It's inside a mall, which is weird enough, and it's called 321 Books. I'm not sure if there's any, like, how many locations or where they are, but they sell used books, and it's really great. I try not to go there because I know I'm gonna get stuff, but I've limited myself to only buy things that I have read or I want to read and I've, like, actively heard about, rather than just picking up titles because they sound interesting, which my entire bookcase that I'm sitting in front of right now is essentially books that I just found interesting that I had never heard of. So we'll see how many we get to on, like, reading those, but the ones that I picked up, I'm gonna start laughing. So I picked up The Short Second Life of Bree Tanner, which I have all of the Twilight books, hardcover, like the special editions or whatever, like whenever they came out, because I was the Twilight girl. I'm so sorry. I had an entire notebook filled with pictures from magazines or that I printed out exclusively of Taylor Lautner and Jacob Black. And literally, I'm not saying that he caused my obsession with wolves. I've always liked wolves. And as Native American, I have always appreciated just nature and, like, bears and tigers and all the fun stuff. But just wolves have always had that special little place in my heart. And maybe Jacob Black just skyrocketed that love. Maybe it's the reason why I have a wolf tattoo now, or why I just have, like, a wolf skull. Who really knows? But I picked this book up just to kind of round the whole Twilight thing off. I actually forgot this book even existed, but I got that. And then Twilight, I got the director's notebook, which I actually think is really cool. Any type of movie, it doesn't have to be something that you're interested in, really, because I feel like just looking behind the scenes and how everything came to be, and, like, the drawings of the characters or the scenes, I just find really interesting, to me. So I picked that up. And then I picked up Beastly, which I'm going to be talking about another book that's kind of like this, but I'll just say it now. I know that I have, like, a mass market edition of this book. I'm not sure if I ever gave it away or if I put it in storage in the attic, but I know that I really like this book and the movie. Obviously at the time that it was released. So I'm going to be rereading this, and it's just going to be a little, like, nostalgic time in my life. It was like $2. Why not, right? And then the last book that I picked up is actually 2 books in one, which I'm obsessed with. I love books from authors that are, like, 3 books in one or 2 books in one, and they're really, really thick. I like to condense it rather than have, like, multiples, you know what I mean? So it's Keeping Secrets by Alison Noel. This has Saving Zoe and Faking 19 in it. The only reason I got this is because I have the first 3 books of the Immortal series by Alison. And I'm not sure if I'd like that or not, but I figured, why not? I know of the author. I know that at the time that the Immortal series was released, it was huge. So I figured I'm just going to give it a shot. Again, $2. Really nothing to lose. If I don't like these books, I'm actually fortunate enough to be able to donate them back. I save enough money up every couple months to go and buy books like this and in this haul. So it is kind of, I know what I'm getting myself into, that I might not love every single book. And it makes me feel happy that I'm able to donate books back and also support the people that are selling used books, if that makes sense. So that's that. Okay, so the rest of these books I actually purchased from Better World Books. This is not sponsored. They don't know I'm making this video about them. But I do post about them a lot on my Bookstagram, which is at Rye Never Reads, or it's linked below. You should follow me. But they're great. Every book that you buy, they give a book to their literacy programs, and they raise money for these programs and for libraries and all of these like reusing and recycling of old books. And I just really think that it's great to encourage reading, to promote literacy and have all these partner programs and things, and to just help the community and to save the environment all at once. And it's really great. So I suggest if you are looking for a book that has been out for a while, it's not obviously a brand new release, suggest looking for them. The most expensive book that I ever bought was maybe $7. I think I was looking at a book once that was like $14, and it was obviously they're all used, and I was like, $14's a lot. Like it wasn't like a brand new like high release book or anything. So I think the most that I personally have ever spent was $7, but the least I've ever spent was like $2, genuinely. So it's a really good website and I support them 110%. So I actually split these into kind of two groups. One group is books from like my childhood that I've either read or haven't read, and then the other group is just books that I've found out more recently. So we're gonna start out first. It's the Vampire Academy series. Another thing, like how I talked about the Percy Jackson books and like some of them were paperback, some of them were hardback. The first book doesn't match the rest of them because it's like the movie version of it, which again, it's not that big of a deal, but I was like, oh, are you kidding me? But I got them used, so I can't complain. I will say I have this version of the first book that I've read genuinely 5 times at least. I read it twice, loved it. I told my friend about it and she wanted to read it, so I read it for the 3rd time, put all my sticky notes in it, sent it to her. She did the same thing, so she put her sticky notes in it as she read it, sent it back. I read it for the 4th time, and then like the year after that I read it for the 5th time. So at least 5. I will say it was brought to my attention on my Bookstagram by one of my friends that there is a, she asked me how I felt about the student / teacher or mentor relationship, and I genuinely don't remember that. I have not read that book in over a decade because it was before, well, it might have been around like when I started high school, so about a decade actually. I do not remember that. I'm not condoning that. I will have to reread it and to address that in another video about what I've read that month whenever I get to it. But again, I do not remember that, and I had purchased these books after she sent me that just because I remember liking the book so much, and I was like, I'll just get this series. So that's me saying my bad. But I am going to read the series because I don't feel as bad as if I had actually bought them new from the author. So I'm not directly supporting her if that is the case and if these books are as problematic. So I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there. So the other books that I have read from the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, this feels like a fever dream. I remember reading this book in elementary school or early middle school and loving it. And then nobody in my whole life had ever heard of this or read it. And I literally was like, it's a Mandela effect. Like I'm in an alternate universe or something shifted and this book is not real. And then I heard like talk about it years later about like some sort of movie or something. I'm not sure. And so I ended up finding this for a couple bucks and I was like, I'm getting it. So I have a physical copy. I know it's real. And I remember really enjoying this book. So I think this one is going to hold the most nostalgic factor for me. Just because I went all those years thinking like, is this a real book? Like, did I actually read this? It's just like a weird time in my life. The second book is The Witches. I also read this book and it holds a dear place in my heart and I don't remember anything about it, so that's fun. But I also heard that there was a movie coming out about this or something, so I really want to reread this before that happens, and I know it's just like going to be a little childhood classic. So like I said about Beastly, I have Red Riding Hood, and I did have like a mass market version of this. Don't know where it went. If it's in the attic, I'll donate it if I ever find it, but I did buy this and it was only a couple bucks. And again, like Beastly, I just love it. I love the movie. I love the book, especially when it came out. I haven't, read this in years, but I just love this version of the story, and like the twist that it had. I was like, it just like blew my mind, little middle school me reading this. So I'm actually very excited for this. Can we just say how every book, I'm so excited for this. I'm very excited to read this. I'll just shut up. I will just stay silent, I promise. So the last two books that I have is Dark Visions by L.J. Smith. Oh my God. And Remember Me by Christopher Pike. I've read these. They're huge. I actually, for L.J. Smith, have the Night World series. They're in my closet. I'm not sure. I did own these books. I own these books, and I think I donated them because I read them and I was like, they're huge. I'm never gonna reread them. And then me sitting here in 2020 at 24 years old, I was like, I want to reread them. Something that they don't tell you about sitting on the floor is that when you cross your legs, they fall asleep, or that your back hurts because it's not supported, or that then your legs start to hurt and then you can't get comfortable, or else you're just gonna like be sitting like this. So we'll never be doing this again. This is painful. So on to the books that actually, you know what? I'm gonna stop myself right there. I have read one of these books, but when I ordered it, I had not read it. So we'll just talk about that first. It is Moon of the Crusted Snow by Wabgishik Rice, and I actually just finished reading this the other day. This is a part of my February TBR. I rented it from the library, as I do a lot of my books before I buy them. That's why the books that I actually bought here that I've never read yet, it's because I just have such a visceral reaction to them, that I know I'm gonna love them, and if I don't love them, then that's on me. I caught me slipping. But this was one of the ones that I wasn't sure if I was gonna like, and then I actually ordered it when I was like halfway through reading the book because it was just like so ominous. So now I have an actual copy, and I just like love the cover. It's very beautiful, and it's an indigenous story, which we love. We love the representation. So I have that. On the same line as indigenous, I actually have Split Tooth by Tanya Tagaq. I could not find this in my library at all, which is the reason why I purchased it used. This is also obviously a part of my TBR. I haven't started reading this yet. I'm actually in the middle of another book for my TBR. So I will actually be reading this directly after the book that I'm reading now. So I'm glad that it came in when it did. I have The Picture of Dorian Gray, classic. I've been wanting to read this for years, and I saw it, so I picked it up. That's it. Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. Okay, listen, I want to read all of her books. I've never read anything by her, but I feel like this is a good starting point to get into her. These cords are really bothering me. I'm so sorry. Like just looking at it in the camera. I'm very excited to read this, and I've seen the movie. I know what happens, but I feel like it doesn't really deter me from reading the book. So that's that. I have 5 to 1 by Holly Bodger. This really interested me. I think it's kind of like dystopian, or like some sort of weird society where there's 5 girls, or no, there's 5 guys to every 1 girl. So the guys kind of have to like compete to marry a girl, and then like, I don't know, it's like so strange, but I'm very like so interested to read this. And I think it's set, let's see. Well, it's set in 2054, but it's in India. So we have a girl that doesn't want to be a wife, and we have a boy that's forced to compete in the test. He doesn't want to compete, and then they become unlikely friends. We have All Out, which is an anthology, and I've never read an anthology, but I'm excited to read them in 2020, and it's actually queer, which another representation book. We love to see it. And I've just heard nothing but good things about this. I think they're like retellings of stories, but in like a queer perspective. Another anthology is Slasher Boys and Monster Girls. This, I lied. It's Slasher Girls and Monster Boys. This is just like psychological thriller type stories. I got The Night Circus. Hell yeah. Apparently it was Heather's pick. So wherever you are, Heather, I'm sure you had good taste. Haven't read it yet, but I couldn't tell you. I have The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. I also have The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware that I haven't read yet. It's been up on my library, and that's it. Period. Forbidden, which is the story about a brother and sister falling in love and being in a really traumatic childhood. And at first I was like, why would anyone write this? Or why would anyone read this? And then all the reviews are saying how the author makes it so polarizing that you can't tell like right from wrong, and that it makes you almost like understand why they fell in love or like got together, and that it's just very depressing and sad. So that's fun. All the Ugly and Wonderful Things. Every time that I see this book, I don't know what it's about, and then I read the synopsis and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember. And then I just like see the cover and immediately forgets. I couldn't tell you, honestly. Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter, another book that I'm probably gonna cry over because everyone that I follow that has read this has cried over it. Can't wait. The Coldest Girl in Cold Town by Holly Black. I picked this up because like there are certain words I look for in books before I like want to read the synopsis or want to add them to my TBR. Some of the words that I look for, which I mean it spans all across different genres, but within this genre I look for dystopia, I look for post-apocalyptic or apocalyptic, I look for quarantine, anything sort of like that. So this one has quarantined monsters, and that's literally all that I saw, and I was like, I'll get it. You sold me. I got this on a whim. It's called The Grace Year. I think it's about girls making men fall in love with them or something. Like they have this like power to make them fall in love with them, and then this one girl was like, I don't want anything to do with this, and then it revolves around that. Is it a thriller? Is it suspenseful? Couldn't tell ya, but I got it. This is why I need help and I need to stop buying books. And that's it. I'm so sorry that this was everywhere. I don't even know what I said. Was I comprehensible? And the wires and my dirty clothes hamper, there's nothing in it. I just cleaned my clothes. The plant in the corner, my open door. This was not ideal, but I did not want to pick up 50 books to set on the other side of my room just so I could film a video in front of my cool desk. But you heard it here first. I am not buying any other books until I get through like half of the ones that I own, which looking at them, I'm very upset and scared by them. I also, honorable mention, I'm not getting them off my shelf because there's stuff around them, but I have all 3 books in the Illuminae Files series, or trilogy, and I got them used, but I've heard nothing but great things about them. So I also have those. So that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Okay, so I'm filming this part a couple hours after what you just watched. I just got a package from, who is this from? From Book Outlet / Amazon. Oh, okay. So I'm gonna quickly open this box and we shall see what's in it, and I'm very excited. Ooh, the Divergent. Okay. Oh, this is so cool. Wow, I've always been really into the movies. Like I've seen all of them once, but I've really enjoyed like that kind of world. Like that's just what I'm into. Wow, I forgot that these were coming. I thought it was the Maze Runner, but I guess I just didn't buy that one yet. Yeah, so that's a little update, but yeah, very fun, very cool. I also am just having like this big book stack here. I'll just, okay. All of these books, yeah, they don't really fit on the shelf. There's a lot of them. So hopefully I'm gonna be able to build a bookshelf here, and then the bookshelf that's actually in front of me right now, I am going to move to the opposite side of my room, and that way I just like have space, you know what I mean? And all my books will have a spot. That's it.